Hi, and welcome everybody. We are back with another content marketing webinar with Semrush. Glad to be here. I love these. I look forward to them all month long, although we missed last month, so we're going to make up for it today. This is a content marketing topic, of course, and we're going deep into content strategy with one of the true experts in our field. I'm glad to have finally met Krista. We crossed paths at long last at a conference in Vancouver. Mm-hmm. What was that, like a month and a half ago? A couple months ago?
Yep, a couple months ago.
Yep. Krista, give us the highlights of your background.
So I have been in the analytics space for 10 or 12 years at this point. I spent time at Adobe and a few other companies, and most recently I was at Google for almost 7 years doing a bunch of different things in the analytics world, but spent a lot of time on the actual Google Analytics team as the evangelist and the person writing and running all of the education for Google Analytics and all of their measurement products. I recently left there and I actually started my own analytics consulting practice now called KS Digital. And so that's just a little bit about me.
Excellent. Thank you. I think a lot of our attendees will probably know your face from all that awesome, helpful content that you published for Google on the topic of analytics. So the format is this. Krista's going to give us a quick presentation, 15, 10, 20 minutes, something like that. Ask questions. This webinar is for you as the attendees, so you can jump in. And to make this even more fun for me and for all of us, we have another pro. Ms. Willits is on this call from AWeber, and she is going to be kind of co-hosting with me today to extract as much value as we can from Krista's brain. For those of you that don't know, Liz, give us a sense for your background.
Yeah, so I'm the senior content marketing specialist at AWeber, and AWeber is an email marketing platform. So that makes me an email marketing nerd. I've spent many years studying email and working with some of the best businesses in the world on their email marketing strategies. So I am the email nerd at this show.
And email is an underrated, unsexy, yet super powerful channel that every content marketer knows and respects and loves. Trackable, and we can grill Krista on this if we'd like. The totally measurable, data-rich channel, and we love it about that. So Liz, let's jump in anywhere and get to know, get as much as we can from Liz as we can during this next hour. But also, it was great to see you recently. You're another person that I got to, we were hanging out at a conference not long ago.
Yeah, I saw you at Content Marketing World, where actually, at Content Marketing World, Andy presented on Google Analytics, and it was a great deep dive session into some really cool ways you can use GA.
It's a tough topic to present sometimes because attendees will have a wide range of knowledge there, but that session, hopefully like this session, I mean, if as attendees, if you come away with 2 or 3, maybe 5 things that you can go and apply, or new insights, new ways to think about it, we'll call that a success. That's our benchmark. Let's just give people some practical value and a new perspective. And with that in mind, Krista, take it away.
Thank you. Andy, you're right. It is hard to make sure that you have content for everyone when you're talking about a topic like analytics. So the way that I actually like to do it is I like to kind of talk about topics that are generally maybe known by a number of people, but then go deeper into a few additional tips and tricks to really take advantage of that subject as most you can. So that's what I'm aiming for today. So if we just go ahead and focus on the slide deck. So I already mentioned this, those videos Andy mentioned, I'm in a lot of them. I'm on Twitter at Krista Seiden, and I have a blog, kristaseiden.com, where I talk all about analytics and optimization if this isn't enough for you. But let's go ahead and dive right in. So I'm going to talk about a few, like I said, fairly common topics today, but hopefully take you to the next level of really using these for content marketing. So the first is site search, then campaign tracking, goals, and if we have a little bit of extra time, I do have a peek ahead at some cool stuff coming down the pipe with Google Analytics. All right, so making the most of Google Analytics. And we're going to start with site search. So what is it? Well, it helps you collect the search content that is used on your website search box. So when somebody comes to your site, this is my blog, and they click into that search box, or in the upper right-hand corner, there's another search tool, and they start to type a topic that they're looking for on my site. Site search allows you to actually collect that keyword so that you can see what people are searching for. Now, the reason that I love this is because it's actually the voice of your customer. They are telling you exactly what they need, want, or can't easily find on your website. And I wanted to give you just a really quick understanding of this. So first, to set it up, in case you aren't familiar, very simple. Go to your site, do a little search. In this case, I searched for Google Tag Manager, or GTM, in my search box. And you can see the URL I have pointing to in the upper right-hand corner. It just has $S equals GTM. Now, that S equals is what's important here if you want to set up site search. So we go over to the analytics interface, and here we're in the admin settings, and we're down here in view settings, and this is where I'm looking at my site search settings. And it says query parameter, and I put in S. So if you are looking to set up site search on your site, all you have to do is do a quick search on your site, find what your query parameter is, throw it into this simple setting here, and you're good to go. You're going to start collecting site search data. Now that you've done that, how do you actually take advantage of it? What do you see? What's the outcome? Well, I wanted to show you a quick look at my website. So this is some of the data that I am seeing in my search term results right now. Google Analytics recently released something called App and Web. It's a new property type in analytics. So you see that a lot of people are actually coming to my site looking for app and web content. But they're not just looking for app and web, which is the name of it. They're also looking for web and app. And there's a very long tail of these search results. There was a couple hundred of these, right? So while you may just come in here and look at the first 10, the first 25 search results, I actually highly encourage you to go ahead and look at that long tail of data, because this is where you're really going to find those nuggets. So here you can see people are searching for app and web, event tracking, campaign tracking, Google Tag Manager, a bunch of different things. But if we go further down the list, now we're in row 80. These are one search a piece. So it's long tail, but you can see that app and web is actually an even more popular topic than I would have seen in the first 16 results here. I have another several results that are some different variation of how app and web looks here.
Wow. Hey, Krista, are you just adding to the number of rows and scanning through to find that insight?
Totally. In the bottom right-hand corner, there's a little drop-down box that allows you to go from 10 to 25, 50, 100, however many results you want to see. I like to just open up all of the results and go down to the bottom and see what those long-tail results are.
This reminds me of I saw a presentation by Will Reynolds recently, and he said, you've heard this before, data is the new oil. Mm-hmm. Drill, baby, drill.
Exactly.
Just keep going, go down, keep looking.
Exactly, because that's where the real insights are. So, it gets even better. Keep going down. Now we're in row 179.
Wow.
This is somebody who's actually typing in exactly what they want to find on my site. Is this for a web event or an app event? How do I set up GA or GTM for an app? Does the real GA get this event if they add the SDK? These are topics that people want to know and they're searching for. And granted, it's long tail, it's only one search, but this is true voice of customer. And based on a lot of the other searches I see, this is actually, fairly common. This person was just a lot more verbose in how they were looking for it. But we go even farther, and 204, somebody says, please help. No one explains how to get data in both Google Analytics and Google Analytics for Firebase. Now I happen to know this person is asking about app and web. This is another topic related to that. So maybe they want to do a topic that shows how these two relate to help this person understand exactly what they're looking for. And just a little bit farther, because I like to look at all of the long tail results, you even get people who say really nice things to you. So this person said, thanks, Krista, for your passion for Google Analytics. And it's a really nice way to really get that voice of customer, including some nice little comments from people.
People are putting like love letters or like blog comments into your search field.
Yes, this is probably somebody who realized I would look at the long tail of my search results.
Well, kudos to you. I've recommended this before. I've taught this before, but I've never gone that deep into it. So you're basically saying that there's valid insights even at the ultra low search volume, granted for site search on your own website.
Totally.
And then you go that far down. You have to choose more than 250 rows to get to that one. That's the 251st.
Yep, exactly.
And that's like such a great way to get voice of customer data, like you're saying, which is perfect for any kind of content marketing you're doing.
Yep. This is the type of content you want to start creating for your customers, especially these longer ones where people are actually typing in full sentences, because they're not just looking for that keyword, they're telling you how they want to see that keyword come to life.
Very nice.
Hopefully that's a good one you can take advantage of. Like I said, common tip site search, but I like to take it in a deeper angle here. All right. Next one I wanted to talk about is campaign tracking. Now, if you are a content marketer, this should be very familiar to you. If it's not, it needs to be very familiar to you. But let's dig in. So campaign tracking, this is also called UTM tracking in Google Analytics. This is how people are coming to your site. This is the URL parameters that you are collecting as part of that acquisition to understand exactly where someone came from. Could be from organic, PPC, display, social, email. Many of these relate to content marketing as ones that you are actually putting this content out and hoping to drive people to your site. So what does it look like? Well, quick review for those who aren't familiar. There's 4 levels of campaign tracking. Now, the first is campaign. This is the highest level of the hierarchy. This is something to track your overarching campaign. So for example, if you have an email that's going out or you have a couple email blasts about your winter sale, it might all roll into the campaign of Winter Sale 2019. Medium is the next level down. This is how you're actually sending your campaign. So if you're sending an email, the medium would be email. If it's a search ad, it would be CPC. If it's a social network, it would be social, and so on. Now, source, this is used to actually differentiate the type of medium. So if that medium was CPC, then the source is going to be Google, Bing, Baidu. It gets a little bit more freeform when it's not something like email or something more out of the box. So if your medium was, CPC, if your medium was email, you have a little bit more options in terms of what you want to use this source for. I like to actually use it to track the buttons or the type of call to action that I'm trying to get people to do in my email. So for example, if it's trying something, try, buy, coupon, awareness, whatever that might be. The key thing is just to be consistent in how you do these across the board. So you can choose what you want in terms of how you're using the source. Just make sure you're doing the same thing from email to email to email. And then content. This is the last field. This is actually my favorite. It's a bonus field. A lot of people don't even use it.
I don't.
There's so much value, Andy, that you can get here. You need to use this.
Okay.
So for example, if you were doing an email and that source was coupon, because you're offering a coupon, but you actually have 2 versions of this email going out to your audience and you want to see which coupon is working best, it's an A/B test. Use that content field to actually track which version they got. Did they get the $60 off offer or the 15% off offer? And that then puts that information into your Google Analytics account so you can track that email by the offer type that they received and be able to report on that, not just out of your email system, open rate and click through, but also in your Google Analytics data to see what else they are doing across your site.
Okay, I'll start using it.
I love the content field. It's, like you're saying, so adaptable.
Exactly. And then putting it all together, this is what a URL would look like if you've never seen this before. So you have kind of your site, whatever landing page you're sending people to, separated by a question mark, and then all of your UTM parameters appended. Now, that's a lot to remember, a lot to build if you're not familiar with this. So there are a couple tools for you to help you actually build these URLs much easier. So there's the URL, that's a tough one. URL Builder. This is on the Google Analytics Dev Tool site. There's a link to it right there, or you can just Google URL Builder Google Analytics. This one's great. It's a built-in tool. I don't love it myself. Don't tell the team, just because you have to do every single one individually.
Yeah.
So instead, I actually created a spreadsheet template.
Nice.
That you can go ahead and use. There's a short link there, just krista.me/UTM-template. And this one is much simpler. You just kind of drag down everything that you want to enter in the individual fields, and it will concatenate the actual tracking URL for you to use on your in your email, on your social media posts, etc.
Very nice.
All right, Andy, Liz, I have a question for you.
Okay.
What do you see here?
I see a short link. I see a URL shortener in use, a bit.ly link, which is a piece of duct tape, basically. I see duct tape.
I see similar. I see a bit.ly link, and it's a non-customized bit.ly link.
There you go, Liz. All right, so this is a post on Facebook and one on Twitter, and it is using the exact same bit.ly link.
Oh, right.
What does that mean?
Well, hopefully the bit.ly link has another level of, I mean, they could be using campaign tracking on the next level of the link, but yeah, they're probably not getting any data here on the, at least bit.ly won't show what the campaign source was. Medium, social, source, who knows? One or the other. It could be either.
Exactly. So that data coming into Google Analytics is going to look the same. If they just did social, or if they said Twitter and they used it on Twitter and Facebook, they're never going to know which channel actually sent that traffic. Now I want to walk through this really quickly because this is actually a very common thing that I see from people, but it's so easily used in a better way to get a lot more data for yourself and to improve your content marketing efforts. So if you were to do what you saw in that screenshot, you could look at a social network report or channels report in Google Analytics, and you'd see people coming from Twitter or Facebook. Not too much more. You could add a secondary dimension of a landing page and see that they came from Twitter or Facebook to a certain page, but you're not going to know what post they actually came from or the granularity of that. So I've actually created a new URL for this post here. And in this case, the campaign is social posts, the medium is social, the UTM source is Twitter or Facebook, depending on which platform they were on. And then I like to use the content field. Actually, in this case, Andy, good tip for you, to actually highlight the name of the post I'm sending people to, and bonus actually using the date that I'm putting that out, because you can do a whole lot of analysis in terms of, you can even do time of day in there and see which posts work better on what days, on what platforms. You can get really, really deep here.
You're schooling me. I appreciate it.
So then what that looks like, right? I sent a couple of hits. There's one for Facebook coming in, one for Twitter coming in. In Google Analytics, you're going to see that campaign of social posts. You dig down into the source medium. Now you have Facebook and Twitter, both social. You add a secondary dimension of content. And now you have the post that they came to from which platform. And imagine what you can do with this level of data and insight if you're really trying to dig deep on all of your different content marketing efforts to see exactly which ones are driving the most people to your site and to which posts.
You're crazy not to use campaign tracking if you're buying traffic, if you're doing any specific promotion. What's a campaign? It's a specific action designed to drive traffic.
Sure.
Right? Yeah. So the people that I see, when I land on a page after clicking something and I see that there's no campaign tracking code in there, I feel like I'm seeing the work of a junior marketer. I don't know how to do good marketing without campaign tracking code. It's critical. One tip I'll add, or do you guys ever notice this? Someone shares something of yours, but the version they shared had your campaign tracking code in it. Can we make the case here and now for people to use clean URLs when you share something and to take out all that extra campaign tracking code when you grab a link from someone's content? Because when you're sharing it in your social stream, it's not that campaign, right? Mm-hmm. It's now organic social. So
that's true. That's true. I could argue it both ways though, right? Like it's a continued reach of that post, right? So you shared it and then somebody else is kind of resharing it, and you're continuing to see effort come from that post that you made. But I can also see it the other way around, where you really want to have direct attribution to exactly where it came from. I'll often change the campaign parameters I see on people's URLs. Sometimes I do some funny things in those and let people know exactly who's sending them traffic.
Oh, that's cute. Hi, Chris.
Usually my friends' pages, but you know.
Yeah, just change the content field.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you are talking to an analytics nerd and an email nerd, so you know. Mm-hmm. All right, one more tip here, and that's goals. Goals are awesome in Google Analytics. I do love them. They allow you to see or to track things on your site that you feel are really, really important. You can make a goal funnel, as you see on the right here. This actually allows you to look at the whole, in this case, checkout process, see exactly where people are falling off. In this case, it looks like there is, an increase in people falling out of the funnel at the payment method. So perhaps that means that, there's something going wrong on that payment page, the credit card's not working, or there's some other setting that is preventing people from actually going through. But the reason I actually love goals is not so much this. though it is valuable. But I like to actually see goals done in reporting. So I wanted to give you a couple examples of goals for a publisher or a content marketer. Did they go 2 pages deep in my site, 3 pages deep? Did they scroll all the way? Did they click on any related content or popular content? Those types of things. And then taking that goal and actually looking at it across your reporting. So in Google Analytics, in not all of your, but most of your table reports, you actually have this ABC, acquisition behavior conversion metric grid here. And the very last one, conversions, actually allows you to change the goal that's represented. So here you can see it's goal 6, pages greater than 1. So people went to more than 1 page in my site. And in this case, I can actually see then if I look down that first column in the conversions area, LinkedIn referral traffic performs pretty badly. Only 7.5% of people are seeing more than 1 page on my site. But people coming from Timo Hava's blog to my blog actually see a lot more content on my site. 45% of them are seeing more than 1 page. Which is really interesting. And actually here you do see everything that says Twitter/social or LinkedIn/social. Those are my UTM parameters that I put on there to make sure that I know where those are coming from versus the referral traffic, which is more just anyone else posting and linking out to my blog. So the stuff that I'm posting is actually getting higher conversion rate here for my goal than some of the referral traffic is.
Do you worry about using up? I mean, there's a limit, right? You'll get 20 goals per view.
Yep.
So you're making goals for things that could have been done with a segment or could have been done other ways. How do you decide what to make a goal? And are you worried about how that affects your overall conversion rates? Or do you worry about maxing out the number of goals on a view?
I worry less about the conversion rate. I do worry about the number of goals. So in my case, there's only a handful of things that I really care about tracking on my blog. Well, there's a lot of things I care about tracking, but in terms of making first class, I have another tip for you where I'm going to show you how to get around that actually. The next slide. But you definitely have to be conscientious of how you're using your goals, and you should be using them to track the most important things that you want to be able to see in reporting. But the reason for me is I like to be able to look at it across these table reports in Google Analytics easily for some of the things that I deem to be helping me understand engagement or people doing things that are valuable on my site. But to get around that, you can actually do custom metrics. So a lot of the things that I track as goals, I also track as custom metrics using the events that are bringing these in. So for example, I have a goal in an event on my site for continue reading, like they clicked through on an article and went to the full page, or that they've subscribed to a newsletter. Now I've actually also implemented these as custom metrics. And that's just a simple setting in Google Tag Manager, which is how I'm sending my events, to just add it as a custom metric. And what this does is if I look by landing page here, I can see kind of where people are clicking through. If they're landing, are they continuing to engage, but also where they're subscribing to my newsletter. So this is just the last couple of days, and I see when somebody landed on the new App Web Property article, I got a newsletter subscribe out of that. And so, that article is proving to be, more useful to me than some of my others. So if you do run out of goals or you want to track things in other ways, you can make custom metrics to be able to do that.
So I'll be honest, I've never made a custom metric. I use events a lot. So how do you make an event into a custom metric?
This is super easy. I can pull it up on my screen if you're really interested, maybe after we finish. But
yeah, let's see if other people have asked the same question, in which case maybe that you could show us.
Totally. There's 2 steps. It's just like a custom dimension. You have to actually create it in Google Analytics first. It gives you an index number of what you need there. So I just create one that I want to say is newsletter subscribe, and it just assigns an index number. And then I have to actually implement it. And the way I implement it is in Google Tag Manager, when you go into your event tag, for example, which is what I'm using to call this a custom metric, down in kind of the more settings area of the tag itself, there's actually a drop down for custom metrics. And when you click to expand that, it just says, what's your index number? So I put my index number as 1 if my newsletter subscribe was 1. And then you give it a metric value, which in this case, I just want 1. It's worth 1 to me every time somebody subscribes.
Okay.
So it's actually very, very easy. Or you can hard code it on your page. That's a little bit more effort. I like to use GTM. but it allows you to get around the limit of 20 goals and do other things that you want to track as custom metrics that you then can pull up in a custom report like this.
Yeah. Yeah, we can just end the webinar and this can become like a private training for me. So Chris trains Andy and I'm totally fine with that.
Awesome.
Now let's see, I was following along. That makes sense. It's like a setting inside GTM that you can add to an event.
Yeah, it's just like a custom dimension, but a custom metric instead.
That doesn't help me much because I also don't use custom dimensions.
We need to follow up, just you and me, Andy.
I would love to. This is great already. Thank you.
All right. I know we are running close to time. I did want to go really quickly and do a peek ahead.
Great.
I've talked a lot in my site search section about app and web, the new stuff that Google Analytics is doing. This is a completely new property in Google Analytics, new way of doing analytics, different data model even. Google Analytics traditionally is a page view and session-based data model. Google Analytics app and web properties are an event and parameter-based data model. So what does that mean? It means everything is based on events in this new property. So this is your home screen. It actually looks very similar to Google Analytics for Firebase, if you've ever seen that. You can see on the left-hand side, those reports are somewhat different than what you might be used to in Google Analytics. The main report is actually the all events report, which as you see here is basically just a table list of all of the events that you're tracking. Now, when I say everything is an event, I mean it. Even a page view is an event. A session start is an event. All of those type of things. So what I really wanted to show you here or talk about is not the details of this, but how you can actually apply this in a really meaningful way to content marketing. So given this new parameter, event and parameter model, it's a different way of implementation and it's a different way of collecting data. And what I really want to highlight is just one quick example. Let's say that you're a publisher, you're writing a lot of blog posts, you have a lot of articles on your website. For example, let's say you're the New York Times, and you have an article that's on the homepage and it's on the technology section, it's on the new and hot section. I don't know if that's actually a section on the New York Times, but you get what I mean, right? Like this article could be in multiple places. Now, if you were tracking that in Google Analytics today, it would look like a lot of different page views. You'd have page views for the article in a lot of different places, and you'd have to do some math to figure out all the total views of that article, right? Well, in this case, you'd actually track that article as a content view. So if somebody clicks in to view that article, you're sending an event called a content view, and you're attaching parameters to that content view of content title, content author name, content author ID, automatically appended will be parameters of the page name, the page title. You can attach up to 25 pieces of information as parameters to that content view to know a whole lot more about that piece of information that people are reading, and then be able to analyze that in a lot of different ways.
Are those parameters all standard and built in?
No, page name, page title are standard and built in and come out of the box. Some of the others are they are custom that you'll have to add yourself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, I mean, just going to leave that there for now so you can start thinking about what that really means. There's a whole lot of new ways to be able to track the types of things that people are interacting with on your websites. If you want to learn more, I wrote a whole blog series about this new app web property, or you can just go to my site, search for app web in the search box.
Search for app web. Hi, Krista. Thanks for the great webinar. And
yeah,
you'll see that when you check site search report.
Totally. But yeah, that's what I have for you guys today. So now I'd love to just dig into more conversation with you guys.
I'm going to jump in immediately following up on that last piece. So is this going to be, it's like a different look, it's a different UI for analytics?
It is it's not a completely different UI. It looks and feels similar, but it is, everything inside of it is different. So, I mean, I can bring it up right here.
So is it like when you create a property, you say that I want this to be like an app web property? And then you get that different UI?
Yep. So you have to, right now, you have to actually create it first in Firebase and then link it to Google Analytics, and then you have this app web property.
What is Firebase?
Firebase is a mobile app development platform. And it is, it's mostly, Google? It is Google, yep. It's mostly been used by developers thus far who are making apps, but there is an analytics component to it. And so this new app and web property is actually based on the analytics platform that was originally there and is now being moved to allow for web too, so that you can do cross-device, cross-platform analytics tracking.
Okay.
But this is the home screen of app and web, right? It's a lot of the same type of stuff that you've seen before. But like I said, it's all events, and this is kind of everything that you have going on in this property right now. You can report on users and a whole bunch of other things. So it doesn't look completely different, but the data is different, and therefore the way that you are kind of consuming it and what you do with it might vary a little bit too. But we can do a follow-up on this. It's a whole deep topic to get into. I just wanted to plant the seed. If there's interest in understanding kind of what this new thing is. It's still in beta. It's going to be in beta for a while. But it's great to start learning about it now, because I do think it's going to be bigger and better going forward.
Seed planted.
Great.
Kind of freaked out, but I'm okay with that. I like being out of my comfort zone. I'm going to scan through for some questions here, but in that, Liz, if I'll give you the chance to chime in here.
Yeah, I actually have a question for you, Krista,
Sure.
while Andy's looking through. What are some of the big mistakes you see when you see people using Google Analytics?
Yeah, great question. I think some of them are actually the topics that I covered today, right? It's not using UTM tracking or not using all of it. You can be getting so much more out of it using the same bit.ly URL for the same, shortened post, so you're not getting all of the UTM data out of that. That's a big one. I think events. So Andy mentioned he uses a lot of events. I think, Andy, surprisingly, you're actually in the minority. I use a lot of events. Events are so powerful in Google Analytics, but the majority, and granted, the majority of Google Analytics are long tail users, but the majority of people are not taking advantage of events in Google Analytics, which is an amazing way to collect so much more information on your website. Everything from what button they clicked to, are they scrolling through your page, to, did they sign up for your newsletter? So very, very important stuff that you can actually track using events that are highly underutilized. And then the last thing I would say is segmentation, also highly underutilized, or secondary dimensions, or any way that you're slicing and dicing the data. Looking at the data as a whole aggregate out of the box is great. You can see how many people came to your site overall, but you really get meaning when you start to break it down by the different segments of people and how they're doing things differently on your site.
Yeah, a mistake that I see sometimes is people add UTM tracking codes to internal links, which is a mistake because that will overwrite the actual source of traffic, the actual source and medium of traffic. And to highlight just super quick here, I'm going to share a screen to highlight the importance of event tracking. This is a slide that shows the kinds of things that are not tracked by default, non-page view interactions, carousel interaction, jump links, drop-down menus, exit clicks, share buttons, expand an image, watch a video, accordion content, interacting with tabs, playing with the map, downloading files, an email link, interaction with chat. Someone asked about chat. Yes, chat is trackable through event tracking. Interaction with reviews, scrolling in general. Here's a list of 16 clicks that do not count by default in analytics. They're non-page view interactions. Each of these is trackable, though, using event tracking.
So this actually makes me think of AMP for email. So if you're not familiar with AMP for email, you can put now carousels and accordions in emails, only in certain in supported clients. But we actually went through an issue of how do we track this now? Like, we wanted to know if we have a carousel in an email, we want to be able to track what image are they clicking on, and if people are actually interacting with the carousel. And we used the content field to delineate between the different images. Would you recommend that, Krista, or is there another method you would recommend?
Yeah, so if it's an email and it's sending site to your traffic to your site, yeah, I think that's a great way to delineate. They clicked on something in the carousel, so that's your action is carousel click, and then the what they actually clicked. So the source would be the carousel click, what they actually clicked would then be the content.
I'm going to jump into a few questions. Donna Donahue asks, which, Donna, I love your name. Donna Donahue asks, will we have access to the webinar after the fact? Yes, there'll be a follow-up email that includes the video recording, which is being recorded now. Taylor Moore asks, how do I set up site search? That Krista did for us, step by step. It's finding and adding the query parameter and turning site search on inside the property view. The view settings. Highly recommended and important. And you can go back and watch the replay. She showed you that. Guys, we're experimenting with a chatbot on our end. Have any of you used it? I use a chatbot. I use the Drift chatbot. It's not inexpensive, but it seems to be good value, and it's converting pretty well for us. Anyone else using a chatbot?
I have a client that's using one. They use the Drift chatbot as well. They're tracking it with event tracking.
Yeah, it's a non-page view interaction because it doesn't. Anytime that the URL doesn't change or the page doesn't refresh, that's a non-page view interaction. By the way, another analytics flaw or issue, Liz. I thought of one. If you look at your site and your bounce rate is like 1%, you probably have analytics tracking code on your website twice. In which case, it triggers once and then triggers a second time, and because that's 2 hits going to Google, being recorded in Google, that deflates your bounce rate to basically 0. If you see a bounce rate of like ultra low bounce rate, it's almost always a case of there being 2 instances of the campaign of the JavaScript on the page.
Yeah, there's things that you can do in the settings to make sure that that's not an issue so that they don't conflict for the cookie. But yes, that can, if you're not careful, it can definitely lead to a lot of issues. I personally don't love bounce rate or time on site metrics much. I think they're somewhat flawed in how Google Analytics collects them today.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I think that once upon a time they meant something, and as the web has progressed, I don't think that they have changed in the way that the internet has, and so they don't necessarily mean the same thing. I think they're good to see overall if your bounce rate went from a steady 30+% to 0% or 90%, then clearly there's something going on there, and that's a good indicator that you need to look at your site and what's happening. But bounce rate's not something I typically report on in general. I even wrote a whole blog post on my site called "Why I Hate Time on Site Metrics."
I've written a similar article. I do like time on site more than bounce rate, even though it's probably less accurate. The problem with time on site is that Google doesn't know the time on site if the visitor only visited one page. So anyone who bounced or there was only one, every session for which there was just one page view, all of those are recorded as 0 and not calculated in the average time on page. So it's inaccurate. But to me, that's an indicator of quality. I have pages with 1 minute average time on page and pages with 10 minutes.
Totally. I think they're good directionally. But I always shudder a little bit when people are reporting on those metrics weekly or that, this is a really important metric that drives their business.
Bounce rate, please ignore it. Unless you're buying traffic, unless it's paid traffic to a landing page, I think we should all get over bounce rates. I'm totally with you. I wrote a similar article. It's called Is Bounce Rate Important? And you can find it if you search for that. Here's a campaign tracking code question.
Sure.
It's from Andy Simpson. Thank you, Andy, for asking. How do I track a user's journey through the site who has come to the site via a UTM link?
Great question. I think journey tracking in general in Google Analytics isn't great. There's these things called flow reports. There's several versions of them. I was known when I was a product manager on Google Analytics to say that my goal was to kill all of the flow reports in Google Analytics because they're that bad. There's a navigation summary report that allows you to see kind of the previous page and kind of the next page of where someone went. That one's a little bit better. There's actually something new in app and web only currently called pabbing. I'm a little bit biased here because I built it. It was my baby.
What?
What?
Congrats. That's awesome.
Thanks. But it came from the fact that I just hated the old flow reports so much and I wanted something better. I wrote a blog post about it. If you are using app and web or you start to use app and web, it'll be available to you for free. And it really does allow you to get a lot more sense of how people are flowing through your site. But to answer the question, there's not a great way, but you can, those UTM parameters will stick through the session. And so you can look at individual actions that they are doing if they viewed a certain page by which acquisition channel they came from, or if they've completed a purchase or whatnot by that acquisition channel.
Cool. I'm going to try to jump into, I'm going to share a screen to answer this question now for Code in Game for Work. He says, if we can't use UTMs for internal links, like an in-text call to action in a blog article, how would you track a blog article, which calls to action are performing better than others? Great question. that data is already in analytics without using any campaign tracking code. I know people who put Bitly links on because they want to track with Bitly, like internal link performance. So let me just share this screen super quick and go into analytics. This is my account. I'm going to go to behavior, site content, all pages. This is a really powerful, often overlooked report. I'll get a little bit more data. Anytime you're looking at a low enough data set, you can always get more data by increasing the date range. Let me zoom in for you. I'm going to go to an article here. This is a popular one, how to write testimonials. Which links on this article get clicked the most? The navigation summary shows you. Just go to the navigation summary. And it shows you people who came to this page, as if this icon is the page, what percentage left, huge bounce rate. And if people continued on, where did they go? So this is basically the performance of all the links on a page. It shows you what percentage of visitors went to which page. If you've got a lot of links, you might want to choose to expand this from the dropdown. If you're looking for something specific, there's a search field there. I would argue that going to the home page and looking at this navigation summary, you're going to see the general performance of your main navigation, which few marketers do very often. Just go to behavior, site content, all pages, click on your home page, go to navigation summary, and it's going to basically show you how well your main navigation is performing. So you don't need to use any UTM tracking codes to measure visitors' movement from page to page within a website.
Yeah, totally. And I'd also chime in there and add on top of that, I like to use event tracking for all of those different buttons and links. I'm the type of analyst who likes to put event tracking on everything that somebody can click on a site. And then I can actually make a heat map out of all those clicks if necessary. But yeah,
where's the heat map?
Oh no, that's manual.
Okay, cool.
That's, pulling how many people clicked on what buttons. But you can do that pretty well with navigation to see kind of what's the, what is actually being clicked on there. But Andy's right. Don't ever use UTM tracking on your internal links. You override the acquisition source, and it's just a really bad practice.
We're getting another UTM tracking code question. Does UTM have any impact on Hotjar or Lucky Orange? Speaking of heat mapping. If not, do we need to do anything with Hotjar to map these fields?
UTMs are a Google Analytics specific thing. There's other platforms who have kind of adopted the same terminology, Marketo for one, but they are, a Google thing. They should not have any impact, I believe, on what's going on with your heat mapping software, such as Hotjar, because I think that's just really looking at kind of what's going on the page. So I don't think there should be any issue there. But Andy or Liz, if you have any other insight there.
Shouldn't make a difference at all. Those tools use JavaScript. That has nothing to do with, unless the report in Hotjar is pulling in the full parameters, all the UTM tracking parameters, which it shouldn't. And considering that a separate page, it shouldn't. Bill is daring us to pronounce his name. Who wants to take a shot at that? Bill Sengstacken?
Oh.
Tell us how we did.
Yeah, Shenstacken.
Maybe it's a German name. We can look him up.
That sounds pretty good.
I'm going to try to impress you guys. My team built a UTM track campaign builder because there's a million of these on the internet. Ours is it's called Campaign Builder or UTM Builder or Tracker or something, which maybe ranks for that if you search for it. So we did not. You're not going to be impressed, Krista, because we didn't put the content field on here. Campaign name it does force lowercase, which is handy, right? Because you don't want, because it's case sensitive. If you capitalize newsletter, sometimes it'll show it twice.
You should have that setting in Google Analytics in general in your filters to force everything to lowercase. But if you don't, which a lot of people don't, that's a really good call. Yeah.
And look, it previews how it will look in analytics.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, these programmers are so smart. Bonus. That's how a click to this link would show up as such in your campaign tracking. That
is pretty cool. If you could just add that content field in there, I'd be happy to share that.
You are not impressed with my, I never used it. I don't know. Liz,
I'm impressed. I'm impressed.
I'm impressed. I especially like the preview.
But I'm behind you guys on my content UTM, on my UTM parameter for content. I don't know. You're right. I see it in my clients' analytics. Mm-hmm. Okay.
I do see a comment from Cliff Hama that it's important to stress that if they leave out UTM medium or source medium is required. Those will show up. But if you don't have a campaign, when you're looking there, it's going to come as like other or not set. You don't want that. Always use campaign, source, and medium, and then content to get more information.
Yeah, so it doesn't show up in their campaign report at all if you miss something?
You have to have source and medium.
Okay. But you can leave out the campaign name and it will still report?
It will report under source and medium, and then under campaign, it'll show in like an other bucket. And that's confusing.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, that's one where if you teach someone how to set up, if you help someone set up their analytics, it's kind of insufficient. You also have to show someone how to use campaign tracking.
Totally.
Yeah. We don't know yet if we pronounced Bill's name correctly.
Well, he said perfect.
Oh, good. There we go.
And it's Dutch, and it means all the cows have died. So,
wow. To what do we attribute the death of the cows? Was there any tracking on that? No more beef. Anton's here. Hi, Anton. I'm looking for more questions. Liz, what else do you want to
so I see a question from CA Productions, and I can kind of resonate with this question. They say, I do not understand if you need Tag Manager, and I'm lost of Tag Manager, never use it. So is it important to use it? And in a prior life, I set up Google Tag Manager because I can understand this frustration. What are your thoughts, Krista?
I am a huge fan of using a TMS, so tag management solution. Google Tag Manager is obviously my preferred solution because it's free, it's easy, it works with all the Google tools, it's got all of the built-in tags you already need for those tools. It's got custom HTML tags if there's something not built in that you need. They have this new custom tag template library that every other vendor can kind of build their own tags, and it's available there for you to use. But in general, I think tag managers help you to more easily manage what's going on your site, fix things that might be wrong very quickly, not having to wait for a development cycle, add in analytics tracking, be able to augment an event you're doing to add a custom metric very quickly and easily, and just really help to, in my opinion, democratize data a little bit more, because you don't have to be a developer actually coding the website to be able to add things like analytics tracking to your website. Granted, you do have to have some technical understanding, a little bit at least, to go through Tag Manager. There's courses on it that you can take, one from Google Analytics that I taught, a lot of blog posts. There's a lot of great content out there. Semrush, for example, is an amazing resource of content on Tag Manager. But I'm a huge fan, I guess, to answer your question.
Yeah, cool. I think just to demystify, I know that you guys see this infinite loop every time I share my screen, but give me 1 second. Can you see this?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So I'm logged into Tag Manager. Someone mentioned Hotjar. Let's say I sign up for a free trial of Hotjar. Do I have to contact a programmer to add this to the site, or do I have to find a WordPress plugin that lets me do it? Or am I going to get this, does this need to go on every page? Here's how easy it is now, because you have a tool for, it's a tag. It's a marketing tag. Here's a tool for managing marketing tags. I click new. Hotjar happens to be in here. This will be really simple. I'm going to call it Hotjar. I'm simply going to scroll down and choose. These are all different tags, right? Here's Crazy Egg. I think Hotjar is in here. The Hotjar tracking code. I'm going to put in the Hotjar site ID. I'm going to create a trigger for it, so it's triggered every time a page loads, or just for certain pages. Also, I love the term you use, democratize data. It's also a way just to keep it clean. Like a lot of people have weird old tracking code on their website that they totally forgot about. Mm-hmm. I, at one view, can see all the tracking code. Cookie consent from CookieBot, and here's the Facebook tracking pixel, and Google Optimize, and a couple of events. You can set up events without calling a programmer. So it's one of those things that differentiates kind of the more intermediate or advanced marketer from the more beginner. Get up that learning curve a little bit, you're going to get really excited, and you're going to feel super smart at the next marketer cocktail hour.
Totally. Andy, I love your naming architecture you had in there. Very clean.
I learned from, you mentioned Simo Ahava. Mm-hmm. Follow him, please. Anyone who wants to learn from like a legit like analytics genius, and also Chris Mercer, another really good person who taught me a lot about Tag Manager back in the day. Who do you guys follow?
I mean, Simo is a great friend, so I definitely follow him. We work on stuff together sometimes. He's awesome. There's a guy named Julius who's also really great at Tag Manager. I can't pronounce his last name. It starts with an F. Federer, I don't know. Sorry, Julius.
It means all the horses die. It has a weird Dutch meaning.
I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot of really great, people out there writing a lot of good content. So there's Twitter, Measure, Slack, those type of things. Those are where I really get my information.
I've got a question for both of you. To what extent can marketers delegate or outsource analytics? Or is it necessary for a marketer to what extent is it necessary for a marketer to be hands-on with their own data? Liz?
So here at Aweber, we do kind of a hybrid approach. So we do have a data analyst, but our content marketing team is pretty deeply in GA. So all of our content marketing team has a working knowledge of GA, but we have a data analyst who is the, guru and the expert. So I think it's important for a content marketer to have a working knowledge of GA. And there are so many resources out there to learn GA. If you want to get your GA certification, if you check out Google's site, you'll actually see Krista right on there. So you can take a basic beginner's GA course, and there's a more advanced one as well.
Oh, wait, right there, Krista.
Yes. I think there's 5 courses now on analytics and Tag Manager to date. We're going through all different levels of complexity. So yeah, thanks for that call out. I love that approach, Liz. I think a hybrid model is great. I think, hearing that your entire content marketing team is well-versed in GA and is in there using that data, warms my heart. That's not as normal as you would hope. But it's definitely kind of the dream. It's what you want. You want your teams to be as versed in data as possible, because that's how they're really going to make, data informed decisions. Places where I've actually, when I've been in-house, I've, been that analytics expert, and, with a marketing team of 100 people, run, quarterly or even monthly trainings on Google Analytics so that people can kind of start to understand what are the most important things for them. UTMs, that was a huge source of training that I used to run within our marketing teams, even at Google, right? Because I needed to teach everybody how to put out their campaigns, making sure that they had the right tagging. Something as simple as being consistent and all using the same things when we're talking about the same sources and mediums is really, really important, so that when that data comes into Google Analytics, it rolls up into a single row and it's not 20 different rows for the same type of thing. And then, being on the consultant side as well, of course, I do think that there is room for that. But I think, you should use consultants in a way that they come in, they help you kind of get set up and get ready to go. They help train you, but most importantly, they help up-level your teams so that you do have that knowledge in-house. So Liz, it sounds like you guys are already there, and that's a really great place to be. That's what I like to hear.
Yeah, and that's a great approach with having a consultant come in, because we have a larger team, but not everyone has that opportunity to have an in-house data analyst. But if you have a consultant who teaches you how to use GA and then sets you up, like you're saying, that is ideal, because I've done GA setups from scratch, not knowing a ton about it, and made mistakes along the way that you can avoid if you get expert help.
We've all made mistakes along the way.
Yeah. I'm going to start to answer this. You guys can finish the answer. Someone asked, what are the top 5 blog tracking metrics? Where was that? It was a question from a few minutes ago, and I love the question. I'm going to give you a quick perspective on GA from within my account. If you can see this, I'm looking at the all pages report, site content all pages, and I'm in the Explorer view, leaving the navigation summary, going to the Explorer view. So if I'm looking at a blog post, my recommendation, and you can drill down from here to find one blog post. Obviously, this is the same report with just a single row. Another way to look at this data is to, if you want to see the performance of all of your blog posts relative to each other, it's awfully handy if they're all in the same directory, because then you can just search for that directory and it filters out all the non-blog post content into that view. So that's a really quick way to use a filter. So this article here, how to write a blog post, had X number of views. It had this kind of time on page. We talked about that. Bounce rate, I'm going to recommend we all just kind of ignore. It's a new post. But I want to see how this performed in different channels. My recommendation in general is to click much more on, there's a line here. Click on this side of the line. Don't click too much over here. Click over here. So I'm going to add a secondary dimension, source medium. And I can see the performance of this blog now. It's going to add a new column. This is primary dimension of the first column, secondary dimension here. I can see the performance of this blog in different channels. Look, Twitter was #1. So that's a way to measure the performance of blog content. And it's simply by adding another dimension to this. A better way to do this might be to start to find that same page from landing pages, because I can see when that page was the first page of the visit. These people may have navigated from a different article if it's in the all pages report. If you want to report on this or roll this up into something, you can maybe switch to the pie chart view, and now it becomes a little bit more visual. You can see my campaign tracking is working in here. I got referral traffic from another website. So where are people coming from? Another report that might be useful to you, just super quick, is the conversion rates. So people who came to this page, it's not, how would I get to that? I guess the conversion goals, reverse goal path is going to show me when the number of people who came to that piece and then subscribed. So this is that article's presumed support at growing the email list. If I choose the email newsletter subscriber as the goal, you can see. So any other ideas, guys, real quick on how to measure performance of content?
Yeah, I think those are great. I like looking at goals, and we talked about them earlier in that you only have 20. I tend to have a mix of things that I would consider to be micro and macro goals for my site, based on kind of my own use of that data. I like to create a custom report that looks at kind of the source of that data across multiple goals and almost using it as a funnel of those macro and micro conversions that I find important. So I think that's always a fun one. Again, that source medium content that you brought up, super useful. You can look at that across your goals in the table. Custom metrics, I think, is another good one to add into there. Those are all really good tips.
And maybe some email metrics, Liz. I didn't even touch on it.
Yeah. I mean, I agree with what Krista said. Sometimes we use custom reports, but I defer to Krista on this one.
I also saw a question in here about Data Studio. Is Data Studio worth it? And I know that's not something that we've actually talked about today, but just for this reporting kind of aspect here, I think that this is a good place to bring this in. Data Studio is awesome. It has a bunch of built-in kind of templates that you can repurpose for your own use in terms of the types of reports you want to see, integrations to Search Console, integrations to all of the different Google marketing stack platforms, but also so many integrations to every other source of data you might have. But the really great thing about it is that you can have so many different reports or so many different data sources within one report. So you can have data coming in from your email marketing provider right next to your Google Analytics data talking about the people coming from those particular source medium UTMs from that email, and see how those align in various aspects. So I'm a big fan of Data Studio to answer that question.
There's no other way to do that. There's no analytics report that allows you to, well, maybe SEMO does it somehow, but yeah, if you want calculated metrics from two sources, if you want to make one report that shows, Lucky Orange or Hotjar over here and analytics over here, and or like Liz, you probably have your email, you have Aweber on the same report as analytics. Normally you'd be tabbing back and forth between those.
Okay.
Cool, guys. Coming down to the hour. We try to end these on time. So we answered, I think, almost all the questions. If anyone has a question that they wanted to ask but but we didn't address, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn and just drop the question in there. I accept virtually all LinkedIn connection requests. Liz, how could people connect with you?
Yeah, so you can connect with me on LinkedIn at Liz Willits. I also accept pretty much all LinkedIn connections, or on Twitter. My handle is Liz Willits as well. And if you have any email marketing questions, that's where I can help you out.
Yeah,
Awesome.
likewise for me. Twitter is probably the best, at Krista Seiden, or on LinkedIn, or via my blog. There's a contact form there as well.
Okay, guys, that was exactly the 1 hour mark. We nailed it.
Nailed it.
Super fun. Okay, I want to just one last plug for this Semrush webinar series. You are all who registered going to get a link to the video, and also you're going to find in there the next webinar, or in the link to this amazing program that they run, where they just have piles of this stuff. It's coming at you all the time. We hope that you found this useful, that there were some takeaways. It's not as intimidating as it seems. I know that I'm going to commit to learning custom dimensions and custom metrics over the US holiday break we have next week. So Krista, hold me to it. Next time we talk, I'm gonna have leveled up those skills.
Will do.
Thanks everybody. Thanks Semrush. Find us online, and we'll see you next month for another edition of Content Marketing Webinar with Semrush.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.